So yesterday I made this awesome little SN table, which could be used as a coffee table, printer table or whatever, and it's got some shelving as storage, and I actually put it together with my biscuit joiner, but you could just use dowel or drill holes and countersunk bits, but I'll talk you through it. But yeah, if you want to see how I made it, then keep on watching. So to make life easier and quicker, I bought a sheet of pine which was exactly 400mm wide. So all I had to do was measure 400mm for 4 pieces because I wanted it 400mm squared. And then clamp your pieces together and sand until they match. But for the 4th piece, I needed to cut it into 4 pieces, and these were 200mm squared.
Hello. Let's get down.
But luckily my track attachment was perfect for this because I could cut it both sides without having to measure it again. And sanded any raw edges to smooth out. Now I think this is a very simple and easy design, but it's so easy to get mixed up. So I found labelling what was top, middle and bottom and the nice side facing up and down was really useful. And then I'm going to biscuit join my sections together. So I've got one of the larger pieces at the bottom and I placed a smaller square in 2 of the opposing corners. And I lined them up and drew 2 pencil lines on each while they were laid down, and I made sure they weren't too close to the edge by the time my biscuit join would cut through. And to see them while I cut the holes, I used a speed square to elongate those pencil lines on both pieces.
I hope you can see this because it's really bright, but what I want to show you is which way to put the biscuit joiner because I can get confused sometimes. So I've got these lines that I've drawn and I need to go downwards, so I need to clamp it soon. So I'm going down like that, but I need to mirror it upwards. So I've got my outside piece, well I've written out, so what I need to do is reverse this and biscuit join from this side. So just bear that in mind because you may not have had this set up properly. Sometimes it's ever so slightly out and it's then not flush. Anyway, now I know what I'm doing, I can cut it.
Then cut biscuit holes in the smaller piece while it's laid flat down and cut from the narrow side. And because I didn't make sure my biscuit holes were in the exact same place for each side, I found it useful drawing little codes so I knew they'd match up when I came to glue it later. That saved a lot of hassle. And then I go to the opposite one and do the same thing. So I started having to take my time a bit more and balance my next piece on top, lined it up and marked again for more biscuit joins. Bear in mind this is the middle bit and I'll have to put biscuit joins on top of this as well for the last layer. Something that I wanted to point out though, with a biscuit join, I found it's important to make sure your settings are screwed tight on so the fence doesn't move, and when you're cutting downwards, make sure you're steady with it because you don't want it to cut on an angle. So I found it easier to dismantle it, take it away. It was just getting a bit too confusing, and then just carry on. And now I'm cutting biscuit joins on the top of the middle piece so I can join my last upper level. It was definitely great to get towards the end. So now I've got my last one done. I just wanted to do a dry lay, making sure everything looked right. But something that stuck out was I wasn't happy that some of the edges were chamfered already when I bought them and my cut edges weren't. So I went over them all lightly with a sanding block and some sandpaper, and you'll notice I've got a rag down to catch any glue drips, and it was time to glue my first level. I'm using Type Bond 2 glue for this, which I've used a few times now, and it's really strong glue. And I use size 20 biscuits for this. and I'd attach my smaller panels. And more biscuits and glue for the top piece. And make sure it was all square while clamping at the same time. And I used 2 clamps per side, but I also had to use a wooden mallet just to make sure it was in line with all the sides. And wipe any excess glue off before leaving it overnight to dry. So after unclamping, I was very pleased with how this was working out. And I glue biscuited and clamped the upper section to it as well. But this time I left it to dry for 3 hours because I wanted to sand over it sooner. Router the top edges with a 45-degree chamfer router bit, and then treated it with 2 coats of Danish oil, leaving about 6 hours I think in between. Can you tell I'm really getting into furniture making?